pada jarak paling dekat dalam sistem solar.
Malaysia berjaya membanteras jenayah berkaitan dadah bernilai 990 juta ringgit sejak 2019.
Jangan meletakkan harapan tinggi berhubung soal mencari jawapan pesawat Malaysia Airlines MH370 yang hilang 10 tahun lepas.
Pelbagai inisiatif telah dilaksanakan bagi memperkasakan sektor pendidikan negara berdasarkan 7 teras nadi keunggulan Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Pertama, pembinaan semula bangunan daif di sekolah menerusi penubuhan pasukan petugas khas reformasi agensi STAR. Kedua, projek penyelenggaraan tandas institusi pendidikan Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Ketiga, pemberian bantuan awal persekolahan bagi sesi 2023-2024. Keempat, rancangan makanan tambahan. Kelima, perluasan program sekolah komprehensif 9 dan program sekolah komprehensif 11. Keenam, dasar pendidikan digital. Ketujuh, program gotong royong madani KPM 2023. Kerajaan sentiasa mengutamakan pendidikan melalui inisiatif bagi memacu negara ke arah intelektual yang berdaya saing.
Baik, pada jam ini untuk kita melihat kepada analisis dan unjuran kepada prestasi ekonomi di mana kerajaan optimis bahawa keluaran dalam negara kasar akan berkembang pada kedudukan yang baik kepada unjuran rasmi sebanyak 4 hingga 5% bagi 2024 dan ini juga didorong oleh prestasi yang baik pada suku tahun pertama. Dan kita sudah pun mengakhiri separuh pertama pada tahun 2024. Kita nak reflect kembali bagaimanakah prestasi, apakah antara faktor-faktor yang telah membentuk prestasi ekonomi setakat ini. Dengan itu kita mempersilakan tetamu kita yang sudah bersedia dalam talian adalah Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, merupakan Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia. Berhad saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Dr. kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Selalu online, sekarang dekat studio, up and close. Doktor, kalau kita pun dah mengakhiri separuh pertama 2024 ni, sudah tentu kita boleh cakap macam-macam lah berlaku untuk tahun ni kalau kita lihat daripada tahun lepas dalam tempoh fasa pemulihan. Tetapi kita lihat suku pertama agak baik, 4% lebih daripada jangkaan sasaran dan ini memberi indikator bahawa penganalisis pelabur di luar sana prestasi ekonomi Malaysia mungkin separuh kedua dan pada keseluruhan tahun akan makin baik. Tetapi mungkin doktor bawa kami ke belakang dulu untuk lihat sepanjang 6 bulan bagaimanakah prestasi ekonomi, apakah antara perkara-perkara atau faktor yang telah membentuk prestasi ekonomi sepanjang 6 bulan ini.
Baik, hakikatnya apabila kita melihat data ekonomi, dia ada orang kata tu lagging. Maksudnya dia tak bersifat real time lah. Tadi disebut tentang pertumbuhan ekonomi itu setakat suku pertama. Maksudnya daripada bulan Januari sehingga Mac, dan sudah pasti kita dah lihat angka tersebut melebihi sasaran lah. Para penganalisis saya melihat sekitar 3.9%, tapi angka yang dikeluarkan adalah 4.2%. Jadi yang menggambarkan kita macam berada dalam kata tu on track lah untuk mencapai sasaran 4 hingga 5%. Tapi data selain pada data real economy ini, mungkin kebanyakan masa para penganalisis ekonomi akan melihat pergerakan harga saham, kadar mata wang asing, juga pergerakan bond yield sebagai orang kata tu penanda aras kepada apakah yang akan berlaku pada masa akan datang. Kerana kebanyakan masa pasaran keuangan bergerak berdasarkan expectation ataupun jangkaan. Dan kita dapat lihat rata-rata separuh tahun yang pertama yang lalu, prestasi Bursa Malaysia ataupun FBM KLCI mencatat lebih kurang 9.3% dari segi lonjakannya tu. Kemudian pasaran equity global juga begitu juga. Dan pasaran saham biasanya akan melihat prestasi ekonomi, kerana itu akan membentuk jangkaan kepada pendapatan syarikat. Jadi nampak gaya separuh yang tahun yang kedua ni dijangka akan berada dalam jajaran yang baik jugalah, disebabkan oleh beberapa faktor seperti pertamanya jangkaan kepada penurunan kadar faedah di negara maju, terutama di Amerika Syarikat. Negara maju yang lain telah pun mula fasa mengurangkan kadar faedah mereka, seperti di Eropah, seperti Bank of Canada dan sebagainya. Cuma yang tinggal orang kata tu masih lagi terkebelakang dari sudut fasa mengurangkan kadar faedah itu adalah Amerika Syarikat. Jadi ini merupakan faktor utama yang menjadi, saya kira, faktor utama kepada prestasi ekonomi pada separuh tahun yang kedua, dan juga of course situasi geopolitik lah yang masih lagi ongoing lah buat masa ini.
Dan kita lihat antara keyakinan melihat kepada prestasi ekonomi untuk tahun ini akan lebih baik disebabkan oleh data-data ekonomi sebelum inilah. Kita tengok data PMI, betul, pengeluaran pembuatan, kadar inflasi, pasaran buruh semakin stabil, lepas tu data perdagangan. Bagaimana doktor melihat antara sektor-sektor ini akan menjadi pemacu kepada ekonomi bergerak ke hadapan, dan apakah antara sektor ataupun industri yang perlu diteliti yang akan menjadi pemacu utama dan juga yang akan berada dalam antara risiko paling tinggi sekali?
Sekali lagi saya akan menggunakan orang kata tu data daripada pergerakan harga saham lah sebagai indikator kepada hala tuju ekonomi. Saya melihat sektor seperti pembinaan, construction mencatatkan satu pertumbuhan yang tinggi dari segi angka indeks pembinaannya. Kemudian sektor hartanah, begitu juga dengan sektor teknologi. Jadi saya nampak tiga sektor ni banyak orang kata tu menggambarkan bahawa prestasinya itu akan lebih baik juga pada separuh tahun yang kedua. Dan kita sedia maklum, kalau kita bercakap tentang sektor pembinaan ini, dia berkait rapat tentang pembelanjaan kerajaan ataupun perbelanjaan pembangunan, yang mana tahun ini berdasarkan belanjawan 2024, perbelanjaan pembangunan tu peruntukannya itu besar. Jadi dia akan ada kesan rantaian lah kepada sektor pembinaan, kemudian sektor hartanah dan sektor teknologi pula, kerana disebabkan oleh penggunaan situasi ataupun keadaan fenomena artificial intelligence yang banyak menggunakan chips dan sebagainya, dan kita sebagai salah satu pemain utama dalam rantaian perniagaan semikonduktor, sudah pasti itu juga memberi kesan rantaian secara langsung kepada ekonomi Malaysia.
Bagaimana faktor-faktor yang telah doktor kongsi ini mempengaruhi pasaran modal sendiri?
Itulah yang saya nampak dijangka akan lebih baik. Mungkin kalau dari segi indeks MBMK LCI itu, walaupun buat masa ini masih lagi di bawah paras psikologi 1,600 mata, tapi dengan dasar yang reformasi yang masih lagi dijalankan, kemudian sekiranya jangkaan penurunan kadar faedah di Amerika Syarikat itu boleh berlaku, maka saya kira sasaran sekitar 1,680 mata sehingga 1,700 mata itu ada satu sasaran yang saya kira boleh capai pada akhir tahun nanti.
Kalau kita nak cakap tahun ni memang paling hangatlah doktor, lagi-lagi
hangat
dengan perkara langkah domestik yang sedang dilakukan oleh kerajaan dengan dasar subsidi rasional yang selalu dikatakan, akhirnya kita dapat lihat macam plan is going to be executed. Mula-mula dimulakan dengan iaitu tarif elektrik, subsidi elektrik, pengen harga ayam, telur, dan kini adalah diesel. Dan selepas ini kerajaan mengatakan bahawa akan fokus kepada RON 95, tetapi belum lagi. Kita akan lihat kepada ketiga-tiga ini. Tetapi ramai yang mengatakan bahawa untuk kita menilai kesan subsidi diesel ini mungkin terlalu awal, kerana ada yang memfikir lepas ni harga komoditi akan meningkat, harga makanan akan meningkat, so yang akan terima tempias adalah pengguna. Tapi on the second part pula orang cakap for long term it's a good investment, sebab kerana lepas ni pelabur-pelabur akan menilai keupayaan Malaysia untuk mengukuhkan lagi fiskal negara mereka bagaimana. So tentu kita harus mengambil kira perkara kedua-dua ini. Tapi bagaimana pula pandangan doktor terhadap perkara ini?
Bercakap tentang kesenjangan maklumat, memang jelas ketara lah. Tadi kita berbincang tentang pasaran modal, nampak gaya macam positif. Tetapi sentimen di lapangan nampak gaya begitu pesimistik lah. Dan ini jelas sekali terpancar dalam indeks sentimen pengguna ataupun consumer sentiment index terkini pada bacaan suku pertama, masih lagi di bawah paras 100 mata. Di sini saya nampak peranan bagaimana naratif ini diceritakanlah kepada rakyat, kebaikannya, kenapa ia dijalankan. Tapi kalau dari segi naratifnya itu, kesannya kepada pasaran modal, ataupun kalau lebih tepat lagi agensi penerapan kredit kredit rating agency masih positif. Terbaru kita lihat Fitch Rating memberi satu review yang positif lah kepada perubahan dasar-dasar berkait rapat dengan informasi ekonomi. Jadi ini sepatutnya akan membantu dalam meningkatkan nilai ringgit, meningkatkan dalam orang kata tu pasaran saham kita nanti. Tapi ceritanya tu bagaimana nak diceritakan kepada rakyat, itu saya rasa perlu diperkasakan, perlu diperjelaskan dengan lebih bahasa yang mudah supaya rakyat faham dan boleh mengamati kenapa langkah itu dilaksanakan.
Dan penting sekali doktor ada cakap mengenai ringgit. Kalau kita lihat ringgit, dilihat data ekonomi menunjukkan ekspor yang meningkat, tetapi import kita pun juga meningkat. Betul. Yang amat ketara, dan imbangan dagangan pun kalau kita lihat menurun yang agak banyak dia punya imbangan dagangan. Tapi bagaimana doktor melihat kepada sektor perdagangan selepas ini mengambil kira ringgit mengambil berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat, dikatakan naik turun yang amat ketara, bagaimana?
Ini amat bergantung kepada permintaan global lah. Seperti saya sebutkan tadi, sektor berkait rapat dengan teknologi ini dalam fasa yang sedang meningkat. Dan kita Malaysia sebagai salah satu pemain utama dalam rantai perniagaan ini sudah pasti akan mendapat kesan secara langsung lah. Cuma dari segi importnya itu juga ada juga kesan kerana kita mengimport pelbagai barangan dari sudut barangan berkait rapat tentang pelaburan, barangan pertengahan ataupun intermediate goods, dan juga barangan berkait rapat dengan barangan modal juga memberi kesan. Tapi itu akan diimbangilah dengan prospek pertumbuhan dalam permintaan global nanti. Bagaimana
doktor melihat tahap kita punya dasar dan polisi setakat 6 bulan yang telah dilaksanakan pada tahun ini? Adakah perlu ditambah baik, adakah perlu diperbaiki, ataupun perlu kita kukuhkan saja daripada segi pelaksanaan? Sebab ramai kata perancangan senang tapi banyak masalah sebenarnya dekat pelaksanaan. Bagaimana? Saya
rasa ini bukan sesuatu yang mudah. Seperti saya sebutkan tadi, mungkin satu perkara utama dari segi komunikasi lah, perlu diperjelaskan. Aspek kedua pula pelaksanaan, ia perlu dijalankan dalam selancar mungkin lah supaya tiada hiccup, supaya rakyat akan terus dapat bantuan tersebut. Jadi dua perkara ni perlu dilaksanakan dan perlu orang kata tu konsisten lah dalam pelaksanaannya itu supaya mewujudkan suatu credibility kepada kerajaan dalam melaksanakan reformasi yang sukar sebenarnya untuk dilaksanakan. Jadi kesannya tu buat masa ni memang dari segi sentimen agak lemah, tetapi kalau rakyat mula nampak kesannya kepada katakanlah banyak kebaikan yang dapat dinikmati dari segi sektor pendidikan, banyak kemudahan-kemudahan akan dapat dinaik taraf, suasana bilik darjah lebih cantik lagi, perabot lebih elok lagi. Jadi mewujudkan suatu pembelajaran yang selesa bagi para pelajar. Jadi itu perkara yang akan mewujudkan suatu credibility lah kepada kerajaan bahawa usaha ini sebenarnya akan memberi manfaat kepada rakyat kembali. Dan kita nak lihat kepada downside risk, risiko. Ini adalah perkara penting untuk kita teliti. Betul. Tapi adakah downside risk itu perlu diteliti lebih utama kepada peringkat domestik ataupun di peringkat global? Seperti peringkat domestik mungkin yang tengah hangat adalah daripada segi pelaksanaan dasar seperti rasionalisasi subsidi, dan kalau kita lihat di peringkat domestik ada ketegangan geopolitik di Timur Tengah, perang tarif elektrik, perang tarif antara Amerika Syarikat dan China. Bagaimana doktor melihat kepada downside risk ketika ini? Ya, downside risk kalau kita lihat memang banyak berpunca dari sektor luaran lah, dan ini sebenarnya di luar kawalan kerajaan. Namun apa yang perlu dilaksanakan adalah untuk memastikan sektor domestik ini kekal stabil. Dengan reformasi ekonomi ini sebenarnya dia akan mengukuhkan sektor domestik sendiri untuk menampan sekiranya terdapat kesan-kesan negatif yang disebutkan tadi kan. Bergerak ke hadapan ni macam-macam perkara yang mungkin akan kita saksikan. Election di US sebagai contoh, apakah nanti berlaku perubahan dalam tampuk pemimpinan, dan bagaimana pula dari segi corak dasar yang akan dilaksanakan, sudah pasti itu akan beri kesan. Kemudian situasi di Ukraine, situasi di Gaza sebenarnya itu akan memberi kesan kepada bagaimana perdagangan antarabangsa itu dilaksanakan. Jadi secara yang terbaiknya adalah untuk mengukuhkan sektor domestik supaya kita dapat menampan sekiranya terdapat downside risk itu jika ianya berlaku. Untuk dalam separuh pertama, apa lagi data-data ataupun pengumuman penting yang kita akan tunggu dan akan kita dapat dalam tempoh terdekat ini? Tadi disebut tentang RON 95, mungkin itulah perkara utama kerana ini merupakan, kalau dari segi impaknya itu berbanding diesel secara relatifnya dijangka akan lebih hebat lagi lah kesannya tu. Tapi bagaimana ia dilaksanakan itu merupakan satu perkara yang akan ditunggu-tunggu oleh rakyat dan juga pada golongan peniaga dan pelabur juga.
Bagaimana unjuran doktor untuk separuh tahun kedua 2024? Apa yang patut dijangkakan? Apa yang perlu diberi perhatian?
Dari segi momentum pertumbuhan, saya tak nampak masalah yang besar dari segi untuk mencapai sasaran antara 4% ke 5%. Cuma lebih kepada bagaimana kita menangani isu-isu seperti berkait rapat tentang perubahan dasar ini, kerana sekiranya ini tidak ditangani dengan baik, maka dia akan mewujudkan rasa kurang senang, rasa sentimen itu begitu down ya. Itu kalau tak ditangani dengan baik, dia akan memberi kesan impak langsung kepada momentum perbelanjaan, momentum untuk kata membuat perkiraan dari segi perniagaan dan sebagainya. Jadi lebih kepada sekali lagi komunikasi dasar kepada rakyat perlu lebih baik lagi pada masa akan datang.
Bagaimana pula kita nak lihat kerjasama antara retas kementerian, agensi, kerajaan, awam untuk kukuhkan lagi daripada segi fiskal negara, fiskal kerajaan dan kukuhkan lagi sentimen pengguna?
Betul. Kita memang akuilah bahawa sebenarnya kerana birokrasi ini juga memberi kesan kepada kelancaran sesebuah ekonomi itu, kerana setiap agensi itu tertakluk kepada undang-undang dia, tertakluk kepada kementeriannya. Jadi kita ada banyak agensi kerajaan, kita ada banyak kementerian, jadi aspek pelaksanaan ini juga perlu dititik beratkan supaya rakyat faham ke mana, kalau kata nak dapatkan grant, nak dapatkan bantuan kat mana, dengan bagaimanakah caranya. Jadi itu merupakan satu perkara yang perlu diselesaikan. Kalau tak, nanti bantuan banyak tapi tidak dapat didisburskan dalam kadar yang sewajarnya.
Bagaimana doktor melihat prestasi dalam tempoh terdekat minggu ini dan juga untuk bulan Julai nanti?
Bulan Julai ni saya kira agak volatile kerana satu beberapa pilihan raya utama di France dan juga di UK juga akan memberi kesanlah kepada sentimen pasaran global. Kemudian mesyuarat FOMC akan diadakan pada hujung bulan ini juga memberikan satu impak utama bagaimana para pelabur menetapkan hala tuju kadar faedah di Amerika Syarikat. Jadi itu satu perkara yang perlu diperhatikan dalam bulan inilah.
Kalau kita lihat keseluruhan 2024, adakah doktor masih optimistik seperti unjuran rasmi? Macam mana?
Optimistik tak, tapi pada masa yang sama masih dalam keadaan berjaga-jaga.
Berjaga-jaga. Okey, sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Dr. Muhammad Afzaniza Abdul Rashid, merupakan Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia, berhad kerana bantu kami faham bagaimanakah analisis ekonomi dan pasaran setakat ini, apakah patut yang dijangka dan diperhatikan untuk prestasi ekonomi pada separuh kedua 2024. Sudah tentu setiap perkongsian ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astroawani.com dan semua platform digital Astro Awani.
Bila kerja sendiri, semua kena buat sendiri. Tapi, bersama rakan niaga, semuanya dapat ditempuhi bersama.
Lima lelaki penghantar makanan didakwa di Mahkamah Majistret Bangi atas tuduhan membunuh seorang pemandu kereta lelaki dalam satu kejadian.
4 sungai di sekitar kawasan perindustrian Pasir Gudang di Johor termasuk Sungai Kim Kim didapati tercemar dan berada pada tahap yang membimbangkan. Kerajaan sudah mulakan inisiatif untuk menggantikan kenderaan operasinya kepada kenderaan elektrik EV dalam skala kecil terlebih dahulu.
Baik, setakat 31 Mei 2024, indeks komposit FBM KSAI ditutup pada 1,596.68 mata, mencatatkan peningkatan kukuh sebanyak 1.3% dari bulan ke bulan dan kenaikan mengagumkan sebanyak 9.3% dari awal tahun. Dan indeks ini jelas menunjukkan prestasi yang kuat dengan mencapai tahap signifikan pada 1,600 mata pada pertengahan bulan dan menonjolkan ketahanan dan potensi pertumbuhannya, dan kita telah nampak prestasi yang amat mengagumkan dalam tempoh 10 tahun. Tetapi persoalannya, adakah indeks ini akan meneruskan momentumnya pada 6 bulan akan datang? Oleh itu, kita mempersilakan tetamu kita yang sudah bersedia dalam talian adalah Siddiq Jantam, merupakan Ketua Pendidikan, Ketua Pelaburan UOB K Hian Wealth Advisor. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Sidik kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Sudah tentu kita lihat daripada topik perbincangan ini menunjukkan pencapaian terbaik FBM KSCI dalam tempoh 10 bulan dan kita akan menjangka adakah prestasi ini akan diteruskan pada separuh tahun kedua iaitu 6 bulan akan datang. Pertama sekali FBM KSCI telah menunjukkan prestasi mengagumkan. Pada pandangan Sidik, sektor mana yang memacu kebangkitan ini dan apakah antara pemacu utama di sebalik prestasi mereka?
Okey, baik Nina. Sudah pasti kita semua tahu untuk separuh pertama 2024 pulangan adalah sebanyak 5.6% untuk suku pertama dan 3.5% untuk suku kedua tahun 2024. Dan indeks ini mencapai prestasi keseluruhan sebanyak 9.3%. So selain FBM KSCI, sebelum saya mengulas lebih lanjut tentang pemacu, kita boleh lihat juga FBM emas juga menunjukkan peningkatan yang kukuh iaitu sebanyak 12.9% dan FBM small cap sebanyak 18% masing-masing untuk tempoh 6 bulan pertama 2024. So jika kita bandingkan dengan prestasi FBM KSCI untuk 6 bulan pertama tahun ini adalah terbaik dalam tempoh lebih 10 tahun. So seperti yang saya sertakan di dalam grafik yang boleh kita lihat daripada tahun 2014 hingga tahun 2024 FBM KSCI untuk 6 bulan yang pertama untuk tahun 2024 adalah yang tertinggi setakat ini iaitu 9.31%. Dan berbalik kepada persoalan apakah pemacu, apa yang saya boleh katakan di sini, kejayaan ini didorong oleh beberapa sektor yang kukuh iaitu yang pertama sektor perkhidmatan keuangan yang disokong oleh dasar kadar faedah yang menggalakkan keuntungan bank melalui peningkatan pinjaman dan aktiviti ekonomi. Yang kedua adalah pertumbuhan pinjaman yang stabil terutamanya dalam pembiayaan perumahan dan pengguna yang telah meningkatkan hasil kepada bank. Selain itu kita boleh lihat transformasi digital oleh sektor perkhidmatan keuangan ini yang telah memperbaiki kecekapan dan pengalaman pelanggan. So itu untuk sektor perkhidmatan keuangan. Sektor kedua yang memacu prestasi FBM KSCI untuk 6 bulan yang lalu adalah sektor teknologi iaitu mendapat manfaat daripada peningkatan tinggi terhadap semikonduktor. So sebagai pemain utama dalam pembuatan semikonduktor di Asia Tenggara, Malaysia telah menyaksikan lonjakan permintaan untuk peranti elektronik akibat kekurangan chip global. So ketahanan sektor ini jelas boleh lihat melalui pembagaian rantaian bekalan untuk menguruskan risiko dan pelaburan dalam penyelidikan dan pembangunan yang terus mendorong inovasi dan pertumbuhan. Lagi satu sektor yang saya boleh katakan adalah sektor penjagaan kesihatan. Pengeluaran sarung tangan telah memberi sumbangan yang signifikan. So syarikat-syarikat ini telah berjaya dengan memanfaatkan lonjakan permintaan global untuk peralatan perlindungan peribadi iaitu PPE, khususnya sarung tangan. So prestasi mereka diperkukuhkan dengan usaha strategi untuk mempelbagaikan rantaian bekalan dan juga memaksimumkan peluang ekspor dengan Malaysia mengukuhkan kedudukannya sebagai pengeksport utama sarung tangan dunia. So selain daripada itu kita juga boleh lihat prestasi ataupun kita boleh buat perbandingan prestasi FBM KSCI dengan indeks-indeks yang ada di rantau Asia. Untuk separuh masa pertama, separuh 6 bulan pertama 2024, kita boleh compare STI iaitu Singapore Straits Times Index meningkat hanya 2.86%, Jakarta menurun 2.88%, Thailand jatuh 8.11% dan indeks komposit Filipina merosot 1.53%. So dalam perbandingan di rantau Asia, Malaysia adalah yang terbaik setakat ini untuk 6 bulan pertama.
Baik, Sidik, itu adalah antara sedikit rumusan tentang prestasi pasaran untuk separuh tahun pertama 2024 dan itu juga adalah antara yang Sidik kongsikan antara sektor-sektor yang jadi pemacu utama untuk prestasi FBM KSCI kita yang dikatakan pada parasnya agak mengagumkan. Mungkin Sidik boleh kongsi apakah antara ujuran untuk separuh tahun kedua 2024 kali ini?
Okey, dengan prestasi yang kuat pada separuh 6 bulan pertama, separuh tahun pertama, Malaysia boleh dikatakan berada dalam kedudukan yang baik untuk meneruskan pertumbuhan dan momentum positif pada separuh tahun kedua. So FBM kat SCI bagi UOB Kehian Wealth Advisor, kita melihat ianya akan memberi peluang yang lebih baik untuk 6 bulan yang akan datang dengan sentimen yang pertama dovish mengenai dasar kadar faedah Amerika Syarikat yang memperkuatkan kesan kecairan domestik yang kukuh. Selepas itu kita lihat selepas musim keputusan earning untuk syarikat-syarikat di FBM KSCI untuk first quarter 2024, kami menaikkan sasaran kami terhadap FBM KSCI kepada 1,735 mata. So kenapa kita naikkan? Sebab sebelum ni untuk 6 bulan pertama 2024 kita menetapkan sasaran sebanyak 1,650, tapi untuk 6 bulan akan datang kita naikkan sasaran kepada 1,735 mata. So antara sebabnya adalah gabungan faktor domestik, iaitu pemulihan pendapatan yang kuat, dasar perniagaan yang progresif dan situasi politik yang stabil. Dan faktor luaran yang kita boleh lihat adalah pemulihan ekonomi China, kitaran semikonduktor Amerika Syarikat yang meningkat dan bukan sahaja menyokong kenaikan berterusan bagi ekuiti Malaysia pada tahun ini, bahkan untuk tahun 2025. Tetapi kita juga mencadangkan perubahan pasaran yang lebih rendah, iaitu volatility yang lebih rendah pada 6 bulan yang akan datang. So sentimen pasaran akan menyokong saham-saham yang kecil dan sederhana yang terpilih. So kami juga menjangkakan aliran ekuiti asing akan berubah menjadi positif sekali lagi untuk 6 bulan yang akan datang, selari dengan sentimen kadar faedah Amerika Syarikat yang semakin dovish, dan oleh itu ringgit juga akan dilihat lebih kukuh berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat.
Dan kita nak lihat juga kepada prestasi dan pergerakan ataupun trend pada masa akan datang, terutamanya untuk separuh kedua untuk 6 bulan akan datang. Jadi Sidik, apakah antara sektor yang patut diberi perhatian oleh pelabur untuk 6 bulan yang akan datang, dan apakah antara risiko pelaburan yang perlu dititik beratkan?
Okey, untuk 6 bulan yang akan datang, apa yang kita lihat adalah terdapat beberapa tema pelaburan yang boleh diberi perhatian oleh pelabur. Antaranya termasuk alihan perdagangan dan pemulihan kitaran semikonduktor global. Yang kedua adalah blockchain. Yang ketiga, Iskandar 2.0 dan manfaat infrastruktur mega. Yang keempat adalah agenda hijau dan peluang pelan peralihan tenaga nasional, iaitu NETR. Dan yang kelima adalah komoditi, khususnya pemulihan ekonomi China yang akan meningkatkan permintaan untuk logam industri, dan akhir sekali adalah hasil dividen tinggi. So kita lihat tema pelaburan ini akan memanfaatkan peristiwa utama yang berlaku untuk 6 bulan yang akan datang. Apa peristiwa yang kita lihat? Yang pertama, pemulihan berterusan permintaan semikonduktor. So kita lihat bahawa ini semikonduktor mencapai taraf paras tinggi, dan kita lihat ianya akan continue pada 6 bulan yang akan datang. Yang kedua, ekonomi China yang semakin kukuh dan 50 tahun hubungan diplomatik antara Malaysia dan juga China. Yang ketiga, kita lihat pencapaian baru untuk Iskandar 2.0, iaitu kita lihat terdapat pengumuman pusat data baru dan penganugerahan projek mega, termasuknya MRT 3 dan akhir sekali pelancaran pelbagai projek solar di bawah NETR. Akan tetapi untuk kita lihat 6 bulan yang akan datang, selain daripada peluang, kita kena lihat on the risiko pelaburan yang harus dititik berat oleh pelabur. Yang pertama yang saya boleh katakan adalah pilihan raya Presiden Amerika Syarikat yang akan datang, yang menawarkan latar belakang yang unik dan boleh diramalkan oleh pasaran. Buat masa ini, apa yang kita boleh lihat, keputusan pilihan raya Amerika Syarikat akan lebih kepada Donald Trump untuk masa ini, untuk berdasarkan sentimen pengundi di Amerika Syarikat. Akan tetapi sentimen ini mungkin berubah pada akhir bulan 10. So namun kita tidak boleh menjangka siapa yang akan menjadi presiden untuk Amerika Syarikat dan sesiapa saja boleh mengetatkan perbelanjaan fiskal yang mungkin menimbulkan cabaran ekonomi jangka panjang berkaitan dengan defisit. Kita tahu jumlah hutang Amerika Syarikat sangat tinggi, so apa-apa pengetatan perbelanjaan fiskal akan memberi impact kepada semua pelabur termasuk di Malaysia. Di peringkat global yang saya lihat yang lagi satu adalah ketegangan geopolitik yang meningkat yang boleh memberi kesan kepada pasaran komoditi penting seperti pasaran minyak dan juga gas asli. Walau bagaimanapun kesan sebenar ke atas kos sara hidup dijangka kurang dramatik walaupun berlaku ketegangan geopolitik. Apa yang kita lihat ianya disebabkan oleh result strategik dan keupayaan pengeluaran yang kukuh.
Dan Sidik, bergerak ke hadapan sudah tentu kita mahu teliti apakah jangkaan Sidik dalam tempoh 6 bulan ini, dan mungkin dalam tempoh terdekat ini untuk kita lihat apakah antara data-data penting yang dinanti-nantikan oleh pelabur dan apakah antara persediaan oleh setiap sektor ini dalam mendepani setiap kesan apa yang berlaku di peringkat domestik dan juga di peringkat global.
Okay. Data-data penting yang perlu dilihat oleh pelabur untuk dalam masa 2-3 bulan ini. Yang pertama untuk peringkat domestik adalah kesan rasionalisasi diesel terhadap pertumbuhan ataupun kos pengeluaran yang iaitu PPI yang diterima oleh pihak pengindustri. Sekiranya kos yang melibatkan penghantaran dan juga kos yang melibatkan pembuatan meningkat, ianya akan mengurangkan earning kepada syarikat. Yang kedua adalah kita lihat apa yang akan diutarakan di dalam mesyuarat FOMC yang akan datang iaitu di pertengahan bulan Julai. So sekiranya Federal Reserve memberi ucapan yang lebih bersifat dovish, ianya akan memberi dianya akan menjadi catalyst kepada pelaburan sama ada di US dan juga di Malaysia. So dia ada dua. Untuk data domestik, sekiranya data domestik inflasi untuk pengeluaran meningkat, ianya memberi impact negatif. Akan tetapi jika kita lihat on the data international, iaitu Federal Reserve punya pengumuman untuk FOMC meeting, sekiranya ianya bersifat dovish, ianya memberi kesan positif. So dia ada dua pro and con data positif dan negatif data untuk 1-2 bulan yang akan datang.
Dan kita nak lihat juga kepada trend ekonomi dalam tempoh. Kita boleh cakap adakah kita perlu teliti daripada bulan ke bulan, suku ke suku ataupun separuh pertama, separuh kedua, ataupun kita perlu lihat daripada segi tahun. Mana antara measurement ataupun kita cakap ukuran ekonomi yang kita boleh cakap lebih jelas dan lebih tempat untuk kita mengukur impaknya kepada ekonomi negara?
Okey. Bila kita mengukur kesan data ekonomi dengan juga kita mengukur data saham, ianya adalah dua perkara yang berbeza. Untuk data saham kita melihat apa yang lebih yang lebih tepat untuk data pasaran saham, kita lihat adalah dari jangka masa bulan ke bulan. Tapi untuk kesan ekonomi, data yang paling tepat yang boleh kita gunakan adalah daripada quarter to quarter, iaitu suku ke suku. So sekiranya suku ke suku itu meningkat, so ianya menunjukkan penambahan. So kenapa saya cakap untuk saham bulan ke bulan dan untuk suku untuk ekonomi suku ke suku. Untuk pasaran saham ianya bersifat untuk forward looking. So apa-apa yang terjadi pada semalam ataupun kemarin ianya memberi kesan kepada pasaran saham. Akan tetapi bila kita melihat pengukur ekonomi, ianya tidak boleh diukur dalam masa singkat, terlalu singkat, iaitu dalam masa minggu ataupun bulan. Yang 3 bulan pertama adalah 3 bulan jangka masa adalah satu jangka masa yang sangat efisien untuk mengukur sebarang perubahan ekonomi. So berbalik kepada soalan, untuk ekonomi kuartal suku ke suku, untuk pasaran saham lebih kepada bulan ke bulan.
Baik, saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Siddiq Janta, merupakan Ketua Pelaburan UOB Keihan Wealth Advisor, kerana bantu kami faham apakah antara rumusan ekonomi dan juga pasaran untuk kita teliti dalam tempoh separuh pertama tahun ini, dan apakah antara unjuran ataupun kita boleh cakap trend-trend mendatang dalam pasaran saham untuk 6 bulan akan datang. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih. Sudah tentu setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astro.com dan semua platform digital Astro AWANI.
Bila kerja sendiri, semua kena buat sendiri. Tapi, bersama rakan niaga, semuanya dapat ditempuhi bersama.
Mereka adalah yang terbaik di dunia bola sepak. Berikrar untuk satu misi, derby kemenangan. Setiap kejayaan bermakna. Rasai kehebatannya. Rocking the continent. CONMEBOL Copa America USA 2024. Kesemua 32 perlawanan secara langsung di Astro.
Okey, baik. Niaga AWANI untuk kali ini kami bersiaran dari World Economic Forum WEF China di talian China, di mana kalau kita bercakap berkenaan dengan WEF ini, banyak perkara yang menjadi fokus, terutamanya kalau kita saling bercakap soal pendanaan kepada syarikat startups, kerana startups ini adalah industri dan juga memerlukan sokongan yang boleh dikatakan luar biasa, kerana mereka ini dari peringkat seed, pre-seed, seed, series A, B dan juga sehinggalah ke IPO memerlukan sokongan yang menyeluruh. Ekosistemnya itu perlu tepat, bukan sahaja dari segi dana tetapi dari segi latihan dan pelbagai lagi. Jadi untuk waktu ini saya nak menemubual seorang individu yang penting di dalam forum ini. I would like to welcome Carlo Chandelantar, partner, head of ESG and Circular Economy at Gobi Partners. Hi, Carlo. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, Carlo. First of all, and for your information, Carlo is the head of ESG and Circular Economy at the Gobi Partners, a pan-Asian venture capital firm with $1.6 billion asset under management. And Carlo leads investment and innovative companies that champion sustainability, and Carlo also is a founding partner of Gobi Core Philippine Fund, which invests in the next generation of the Philippines' most promising startups. Okay, first of all, to kickstart our conversation, maybe Carlo, you can tell us more about yourself, your journey to becoming at the Gobi Partners, and what motivated you to focus on sustainability and circular economy, Gobi.
Awesome. So I grew up in a family of manufacturers. I thought work and business was built around people, planet, and profit. However, it was just a two-piece, people and profit. So based on that, as I grew older, I read a couple of books on social impact. I started in the space on the non-profit space, but knew business is a tool for good. Now with this, over time, I actually went to Davos 2017. I figured that there's so much more to be done in the world, and what we do collectively can create lasting impact, most especially in ASEAN and where I come from, the Philippines. So now I'm here and I'm part of Gobi Partners since 2017, and basically I've been a partner for the Philippine Fund and regionally head of ESG and circular economy.
Carlo, maybe you can tell us more about Gobi Partners. How does Gobi Partners integrate ESG principles into its investment strategy, and also what impact has this had on your portfolio companies?
Yeah, so I think we created this policy, an ESG policy, last 2018. We've been working on implementing it over time. It's definitely a journey. It's a new practice within the private markets. we realized that in order for our startups that we invest in to go public, they need to be ESG compliant. So we start as early as yesterday. So going through the process, it's been great. We're still starting. We are leading, and hopefully more. We invite all the GPs in the market to actually practice ESG. But really, at the end of the day, ESG is responsible and sustainable investing. Can we find founders that understand environmental, social, and governance? Can we figure out how this could lead towards performance? We're figuring it out, but so far so good. All roads lead to positive impact, societal good, and most of all, creating economic effects, especially in Asia, where for us, Gobi, it's all about innovation without boundaries.
Okay, Carlo, let's walk around here and also take a look at the final day of WEF here. Maybe you can tell us more as a founding partner of the Gobi Core Philippine Fund. What are some of the most promising startups that you've invested in, and also and what makes them stand out?
Yeah, awesome. I think so far in our space, we really started last 2017. We started deploying capital as early as 2019. We've invested in about 10 startups already. One of our startups, Cloud Eats, is actually a technology pioneer under the World Economic Forum. So that's been great. But of course, we see that the Philippines is definitely can learn from all the ASEAN countries. I traveled all around ASEAN last year to really understand the ecosystems and how we can use the best practices in different parts of ASEAN and even the world to figure out how can the Philippines really accelerate this tech adoption. And so far, we're closing the loop, creating this flywheel for a robust ecosystem. I was here with the Philippine delegation, which was Secretary Ivan Uy from the DICT, and really just conversations about upskilling. Can we figure out the next leapfrog? We talk about AI, but for the Philippines, service is important. But for our startups, we see it as the Philippines is just the beginning. We want them to be regional champions.
When you're talking about regional champions, I would like to bring our discussion into more macro level, into Southeast Asia level. Maybe you can share with us maybe what kind of challenges do startups in Southeast Asia face when it comes to adopting circular economy practices, and how can they overcome these obstacles? Yeah.
I think inherently in tech, innovation really creates this lesser barrier of becoming a circular economy. But there are three principles, right? Designing out waste, pollution, keeping products and materials in use, regenerating natural system. A lot of this space can be done. For us, in the pillars that we've identified, plastic, textile, food waste, e-waste have been identified to be the fastest growing industries in this space. And we've got some startups that really come from this space, and we're excited to what they could become.
One more thing that I think most important is to learn how Gobi Partners supports its portfolio. Maybe you would like to share example and also how Gobi Partners support its portfolio companies in implementing sustainable and also circular economy practices.
Right. So the beauty of Gobi is we have over 15 locations where we invest in early stage to growth stage. And that means that we see Asia as one region, yet with so much diversity and economic opportunities, right? So when we look at this, we say we are running out of resources globally. When we run out of resources, how do we continue this growth, this sustainable growth for economic prosperity? Circular economy provides that opportunity. I think this space is fairly interesting to us because ASEAN, or even just Asia in general, is the manufacturing hub of the world. We need to design circular principles, pre-design everything on the get-go because it will influence what the global market really demands. So supply starts, and we see this as a growing opportunity.
Okay. Another thing that I think is very important to talk about is about venture capital, and also how do you see role of venture capital evolving in promoting sustainability and circular economy in the region especially?
So venture capital now, it's going through a change, right? Everything was fast growth. It still is, especially in Asia, where we see a lot of economies that are just hyper accelerating in this space. Where we see venture capital comes in, it pretty helps create opportunities for new founders, tackling challenges in our world. But also the reward that it provides, right? Of course, there's going to be a lot of risk that needs to be done, that will happen, but the rewards is pretty huge if done right. Now, our role as venture capitalists is to be that bridge between founders and the market. We provide this approach of value creation, ESG-centric approach of identifying value, and also risk mitigation. And so far, so good. I think now, because we have multiple teams everywhere, we always and actively do peer reviews and peer learning in order to understand Asia as a whole and as one firm.
Okay. And of course, when we said about venture capitals, one more things that I think need to be discussed and highlights is about key trends.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some key trends in the Southeast Asia startup ecosystem that maybe excite you, and also particularly in the context of ESG and circular economy?
What excites me, I'm from the Philippines, I handle that fund. There's definitely more fundamentally driven companies. So whether we see a lot more, especially on small cap PEs. However, we do see that this notion of free money is being challenged at the moment. So we look for startups that are fundamentally sound. They're building everything from revenue generation towards profit. Growth is very important, but in order to do that, we need to create this line of process in order to build that off. On the ESG circular economy side, our role as a VC is to help them go through the process. So now, ever since our policy 2018, we sign off any deals across our offices in order to make sure that they're not part of the exclusion list. Now, I think over time now, our goal is to create this new movement that hopefully, being ESG centric as a company, whether you're a startup or not, it's embedded of building businesses and organizations. So hopefully I become obsolete as a head of ESG, and ESG is just part of how we do business.
Okay. As venture capital VCs, of course, you need to, in terms of to measure the success, is very important. Maybe you can share, how do you measure the success and impact of your investment in terms of ESG and circular economy outcomes?
So we're going through the journey where it's still in progress, and we have some good signs at the very beginning, but of course it takes years. We started with surveys, of course, but now we've transitioned toward doing a pilot on this ESG software or analytics tool to really understand how our startups are growing every year. And that's what we ask from them. And over time, we want it to be a process of understanding. Hopefully, it becomes part of performance. It's getting there, but any new practice is a long learning curve. And our goal here is to make it part of our culture and our practice. Hopefully, everyone else, you're invited to join us.
Okay. Maybe some, entrepreneurs, even startups are looking in terms of advice. What kind of advice from VCs to entrepreneurs, especially in the context of Southeast Asia, who are looking to build sustainable and also circular economy focused startups? Maybe your advice to them.
So I think there's the circular economy space. It's really a divergence of both social enterprises, environmental practices, and also building businesses, right? So when you build all these practices all together, there's just a lot to begin with. But at the end of the day, fundamentally, you are a founder. You're building an organization. Think long term. Whatever you build, should it be short term? Because hopefully, we reach our targets by 2030, and that's what we're really fighting for here, right? So I think this space, look for peers. It's as far as the past decade has been, ASEAN has been more active on being a founder-friendly ecosystem. So it's easy to find these startups, ecosystems, and learn from them. There's majority of the events are free. Talk to VCs. There's so many good professionals in this space that are willing to give them time to mentor. Now for circular economy, I think the opportunity is here, and if you want to talk, Gobi Partners.
Okay, Gobi Partners is there, and you can reach out to them. Okay, looking ahead to wrap up our conversation, what are your goals and also vision for Gobi Partners, ESG and also circular economy initiative over maybe the next 5 years?
So now we're getting to this point of really understanding the journey. I think ESG has some, depending on which part of the world you are, can be heavily completely on the opposite spectrum. So what we want to do is say ESG is really just part of doing good business. How do you build good businesses over time? You need to understand that whatever creation we do, and every single day we build our products and services, there's actually an impact to that, right? So whether that's the environment, the social and governance. So we need to lead the charge. We need to see business as a social tool for good. And in order to do this, we need to find innovative ways to do it. We've done it before. We've created innovation that's basically changed the whole spectrum of the world, and we can do it again. It is what it is, but I think it's going to be really exciting now that that's going to be the next step and stage for investing in this space.
Amazing, Carlo. Thank you so much for your time. And actually, that's our wrap up here on the final day of World Economic Forum in Italian, China, Summer Davos. And also, of course, we look ahead, and also please welcome to Malaysia. Come to Malaysia, and maybe we can discuss more, maybe in our studio in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much. That's all from now. Harits Asyraf Hasnan signing off from Italian, China, WEF 2024 Summer Davos.
Batteries are one of the key technologies that we use when it comes to getting to net zero, so to solving climate change. Batteries allow us to store energy in times when we don't need as much and shift it to times when we need a lot. It also allows us to move energy around, for example, in our cars. Each one of these different components, each one of these materials are mined in different parts of the world. And then when we do that, we see impacts on our water, on our land, and on local communities. When we talk about the path to net zero, we often talked about how the path goes through indigenous lands. That's because so many of the materials we want to build the technologies that we need moving forward are located on indigenous people's lands. So when we look at history and we learn from all the mistakes of the past, we can do things better as we move forward, including bringing indigenous people into the conversation. When we look in Canada, they're engaging in some more informed consent-based processes where communities not only have a voice in the process and a voice at the table, but also have an equity stake in the project as it goes forward. That means that they engage not just in the beginning and development of the project, but throughout its lifetime. And so when we look at getting these new materials into the system, geopolitics can shift. Who has power at a table can shift. And it's not just about mining, it's about the entire supply chain, from mining to processing to turning each one of those raw components into the thing we want to use at the end of the day. This means shifting power. This means a lot of bumps in the near-term road. As we think about solving climate change and moving to net zero, it's not just about cleaning up supplies. It's about making sure that we're as efficient as possible as we make sure that everyone in this world has access to the energy they need to thrive, to have the opportunities in life that they want to have. If we don't include developing and emerging economies in the conversation, we won't get to net zero on the timeframes that we're talking about if we want to protect human health and the environment. And so it's really imperative that we bring them into conversations, that they have equal footing at the tables, and that they are part of designing the future.
We're seeing it already, for example, for voice technology for people who are locked in or people who have ALS, real ways to suddenly communicate with the world, which is, of course, just completely transformational and breathtaking when you think about the power of that technology. I've been very involved since I was a child in the kind of latest medical research to help people living with not only with spinal cord injury but all types of physical disabilities. And when you look at the potential of AI, I mean, there's real opportunity there. I remember when I was on a school trip when I was probably 11 years old, getting a fax, so this is going to date it, from my dad, and it was the first time that he had dictated a letter himself through technology. So he'd use Dragon Dictate software, some of you may remember it from the 90s, to write his own letter, and it was very sweetly, it was full of typos and all of these things. But the simple act of feeling like he had agency and could send something directly without having to have another person help him was transformational, and that was for the most rudimentary version of this technology. In the space of spinal cord injury, there are increasing medical breakthroughs around what stimulating the spinal cord can do to actually trigger movement that a person can control, again, all through highly sophisticated assistive technology. So that type of potential really is remarkable, and we need to harness that innovation. How do we make sure that your definition of responsible AI isn't just something that escapes human control many years down the line, but actually is respecting people's rights and freedoms and economic opportunity now? And that's the real discussion, is how do we get concrete in those commitments? If you worry about long-term risks of AI either escaping human control or being used for bionuclear terrorism, some of the same mechanisms, which are transparency, accountability mechanisms, who is designing those products and who are they consulting with as they do it, are actually the same types of interventions that those of us who think about near-term human rights harms are focused on as well. And so I hope we're seeing a little bit more of a convergence and less of a dichotomy in the field. Seeing medical breakthroughs. The Reeve Foundation continues to this day funding that work and seeing transformational changes every day.
Terdapat sedikit kebimbangan berkaitan dengan peningkatan kos sara hidup dan juga bagaimana untuk orang ramai mengimbangi peningkatan kos itu dengan pembelanjaan hari raya nanti. Sepanjang bulan Ramadan nanti, cuaca dijangka panas kering sepanjang 30 hari berkenaan.
Peniaga makanan di Bazar Ramadan dinasihatkan supaya jujur dalam menyediakan makanan, terutamanya dari sudut kualiti dan penjagaan makanan.
Sepatu Reunion Live Tour bermula. Warga Kedah, bersediakah anda?
Ramai orang datang. Assalamualaikum.
Siapa bintang cameo yang akan diundang?
Mari kau isap telinga aku.
Tutup sikitlah, berkuat sangat. Siapa nak masuk? Maaf. Kalau saya tengok macam orang Kedah, saya tahu awak dah ke dalam hati saya.
Garanti pecah perut. Sepatu Reunion Live Tour di Astro Warna dan Astro Go.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in business and future affairs. Market watch, industries, analysis and insights. We've got you covered right here on Niaga Spotlight. Well, Today on Analysis, we are taking a look at the medical care and the healthcare sector, looking at shortages and costs and how exactly we can go around managing them. Now, it's very interesting to note that the MOH did receive one of the largest allocation increases under the budgets as of recently. Personal healthcare expenditures in Malaysia are also forecast to double to by about 13.2 billion ringgit by 2028. The National Healthcare Service, though, is experiencing continued acute shortage of medical staff and patient overcrowding. This, however, has led to a popularization in private primary care services, such as private clinics, which offer convenience and fairly affordable prices. In fact, as of 2022, there were more than 9,800 registered private health clinics. Dr. Azizan Abdul Aziz, who is president with the Malaysian Medical Association or the MMA, joins me now in the studios to discuss managing healthcare costs as well as shortages. Dr. Azizan, such a pleasure to have you with us in the studios. How are you today?
Fine, thank you, Tehmina. Thank you for inviting me.
Not at all, fantastic. So let's perhaps begin, Dr. Azizan, with painting the scenario in the public healthcare sector. We've been reading a lot of reports, particularly coming out as early as late last year, of course, on the tail end of the COVID pandemic and all the increases in demand for healthcare. Doctors, junior doctors, everyone in the medical sector have been working 30-hour and above shifts. What kind of an impact is this having on the ground at the grassroots? Please tell us more.
Working 30-hour shift will definitely leave the healthcare workers, especially doctors, physically and mentally exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it will disrupt their work-life balance if it happens too frequently, I would say, right? So the significant implication of that affects their personal health and quality of care they provide as a result of this would be my primary concern would be the physical exhaustion that they are feeling. Yeah, they get severe fatigue that can impair their motor skills, reduce their physical stamina. This will increase errors and accidents. We also read during the COVID time and all that, right? The doctors involving in car accidents back from work and all that.
That's right.
Yeah,
and I also do remember that there were a couple of recent cases of, unfortunately, infants who were left behind in cars.
Right.
At least 3 of them happened to be female healthcare workers.
That's
so
right.
Understanding the burden of especially women as well, juggling their healthcare careers as professionals, as well as their duties and some of the unpaid care burden of being a mother, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, with chronic fatigue, if this goes prolonged,
that's right.
It will contribute to long-term issues. That means the doctors, can develop cardiovascular diseases, high blood pressure, heart diseases, and musculoskeletal problems with such long hours, increased stress. Of course, that will lead to lots of diseases. Then the sleep deprivation that we are talking about will impair their cognitive functions, meaning their memory, decision-making, and attention. So this will also increase medical errors.
Exactly. And ultimately what we are looking for is more of a sustainable healthcare system which not only provides for optimum patient care but at the same time for optimum sustainability for the professionals themselves. And what have you been hearing from the thousands of members of the MMA from around the country, especially over the past 1 to 2 years? What is the sentiment particularly amongst those who are a little more junior, Dr. Azizan?
You mean to say the contract doctors, the junior doctors are the contract doctors.
That's right.
For the 7 years. Of course, what they are saying is the working hours, right? They're talking about the working hours, the working conditions, and then the uncertainty of where they are heading, because some of them, they would like to do their postgraduate, and then they're not sure whether they're able to, because we've got the contract doctors are given like 7 years, so that wouldn't have ample time for them to complete their postgraduate.
So it ultimately is perhaps speaking towards wider systemic change perhaps that we require. But we will get into that in a little bit. Perhaps can we move now into Dr. Aziza and talking about the fact that Minister of Health, Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, he'd announced back in April that Putrajaya is finalising the study of a proposal for a health service commission. Your initial thoughts on this are based on what we do know insofar. How do you think it will be able to help, especially looking at the fact that we're dealing with overcrowding across the sector?
I'm grateful that the YBMK is saying about Health Service Commission, which I think is high time already, for the healthcare workforce distribution and planning, to reform the health sector. So MMA from the start already has been saying to MMA, we need this active dashboard, that sees, real-time data on the movement of doctors, how many doctors you need in a particular health facilities, what facilities you need there, how many patients, that goes to the emergency department or which particular department, so that you can strategize and plan to put, we need how many healthcare workers in that particular healthcare facilities.
Right.
Yeah, so we've been talking about it, so this also will address maldistribution, because the maldistribution will contribute to these long hours again. When that healthcare center hasn't enough doctors or nurses or other healthcare workers, then they'll be stretched to do long hours. So that will really impact the quality of healthcare and patient care.
Exactly. So what it does sound like is that an automated dashboard, which ideally would have a nexus in each and every public service health service center, that would actually be perhaps how challenging, but at the same time how beneficial to set up, in your opinion?
I think with digitalization here, I think everything is at your fingertip, I think.
That is true. So it's interesting that intra-hospital, at least even in public health, we do see increasing amounts of digitalization. It's all about having perhaps a national task force, right?
Yes, I agree. I think yes.
Okay, so moving along from that idea, let's go into perhaps looking at MOH data as well, coming back to the issue of housemen, right, at the health ministry. So we've actually seen a shrinkage of about 50% since 2019, following a drop in medical graduates. Let's also focus a little bit on perhaps this has something to do with studies being truncated during the pandemic lockdown years before we go deeper into detail.
Right. So, so there is a drop, right, in the medical graduates. So if you say whether it's being attributed from the COVID, my short answer is yes, right? So I'll just elaborate more on it. So the numbers of housemen, it peaked at 6,319 in 2019 and 4,924 in 2018. But post-pandemic figures, it dropped to 3,245 in 2022 and 3,265 in 2023. So the decline has affected houseman training with this reduction.
Understood.
So the drop in medical graduates in Malaysia post-pandemic can be attributed to several factors. One, of course, is the contractual issues and job security. So they are discouraged, many from pursuing or continuing their careers in medicine. Because, when I say, being a doctor is going to be a contract position, so some might not even want to take up medicine.
Correct, exactly.
Right? So the contract doctors in Malaysia have expressed their frustrations over limited career advancement opportunities, in there, so it's very uncertain. Then the mental health and stress, the pandemic has exacerbated the mental health issues among university students, including those in medical fields. So there's high levels of depression, anxiety, and stress due to the pressures of pandemic, combined with financial and educational disruptions, have affected students' ability to complete their studies and transition into the workforce. Then the strikes and protests from the Hartal doctor contract.
That's right. Do you believe that it was, did it come to some kind of a resolution or a conclusion, or many of the issues still remaining unaddressed?
Their aim was to highlight the plight of the contract doctors, right?
That's correct.
And demand fair treatment, including creation of more permanent positions and better career opportunities. So I think there was an effect. So it sort of brought up, the what NIC, like the government, is increasing the permanent post for time being. Yeah. So the strike highlighted the systemic issues within the healthcare sector, right? Further demoralizing current and prospective medical students. You know?
So that could have been the knock-on effect.
Yes, that's right.
So what strategies would you recommend then, Dr. Azizan, moving forward so that we can actually address the decline in the numbers of doctors and also the numbers of future graduates who intend to take up medicine as a specialty?
Right. So what MMA has suggested about 2 years ago was to increase the contract period of the junior doctors to at least 10 years. So
Understood.
that will give them ample time to do their postgraduate. Indirectly, that will also increase the number of specialists in this country, because 7 years is just too short.
Yes, to also specialize while completing your postdoctorate.
Yes, that's right. So we suggested to MOH, but I think it was turned down.
Understood.
I'm not sure,
Do you
yeah.
feel a little more hopeful, perhaps looking at the juncture we are at now, that perhaps this will really be reconsidered, because it does seem to be a
Yes.
catch-all solution?
Yes, I should think so. I think, they should relook on our proposal, actually. Yeah. And then, of course, addressing the well-being of the doctors, so that, we want a positive working environment, free from bully, right? Addressing prolonged working hours, as I was saying, looking at adequate staffing and rest periods to achieve work-life balance. I mean, all this, we are trying to get people back. I mean, we have to improve the system, or else everybody is leaving.
Yes,
so we have to look what is it. And then there was an increase in the on-call allowance that has been approved by MOH, I think, in April this year, but has yet to be implemented. We are awaiting for this awaited on-call allowance increase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think with the current session of Parliament ongoing, it is quite timely indeed that a lot of these issues are kind of coming home to roost. And at the same time, we do need to be looking at actual strategies that are going to work when it comes to addressing the problem on the ground.
Right.
So, Dr. Azizan, just one final thought, because you were speaking about the fact that when it comes to being transferred out during your initial years as a houseman or houseperson, there usually isn't a time frame or a time limit that one is allocated. Can this be changed to give junior doctors especially this assurance that they will be, of course, posted back during this frame of time to the main hospitals?
Yes, I think that is one area, I think, for MOH to look into, like posting them out and giving them a definite time frame, and actually also finding out from the junior doctors what is their inclination, what is their medical career pathway. Are they interested in specializing in certain fields, so that they can get to the field that they're interested in, maybe pediatrics or orthopedics, So if you go and serve, because we need to serve rural, because you
That's
have
correct.
to,
Considering Malaysia's demographics.
Yes. So, and then they'll be getting more points by going there and maybe getting their preference of where they would like to specialize. I think, they should look into this and get to know every doctor's where is their interest, actually.
Or perhaps even start off with a fixed term time limit, perhaps 2 years in the rural before you could be brought back, so that you don't have to worry all that much about approaching your entire family, as well as not understanding what exactly the time frame might be.
Yes, that's right.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Dr. Azizan. We take a brief break. We'll be right back with Niaga Spotlight. Don't go anywhere.
Penyasaran subsidi diesel di Semenanjung tidak akan memberi kesan kepada harga barangan keperluan di Sabah, Sarawak dan Labuan.
660 individu berusia bawah 21 tahun di Sarawak telah diberikan kewarganegaraan.
Sarawak kini menjalinkan kerjasama dengan Bank Dunia dalam menjayakan perdagangan karbonnya.
Bilalah aku dapat keluar daripada pulau ni?
Lara, kehidupan seorang yatim piatu.
Bilalah akan berakhir derita aku?
Kau kena berjaga-jaga, Intan.
Tabah menjaga kehormatan diri.
Pada aku, cinta tak pernah wujud dalam dunia.
Takdir menemukan dua jiwa terluka.
Bapa akan cari orang untuk jaga Lis. Baik, rambut panjang.
Janji, Papa.
Kau jaga. Saya mau Encik menikah dengan Intan. Apa aku nak jawab dengan keluarga aku?
Nekat untuk keluar dari penderitaan.
Selamat tinggal nerakaku.
The Daun Hijau di Angin Lalu, di Astro Ria dan Astro Girl.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight, still with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. And today, of course, we are discussing on analysis, managing healthcare costs, as well as shortages. Right. Dr. Azizan, so continuing the conversation, now expanding the lens beyond doctors, junior doctors and their concerns, we also are currently in Malaysia experiencing a shortage of about 8,000 nurses for 2023 and 2024. And it's also been projected, of course, that the shortage of nurses is going to reach closer to 60% by 2030, which is not very far away, not even 5-6 years away. So with our aging nation status also being a key concern and the key role which nursing provides as part of healthcare services, what are some of your thoughts about improving this dire scenario for the nursing sector?
All right. For this, I think we need collaboration between public and private. That means there has to be collaboration between both, you see. When you combine resources, expertise, and strategic planning, this public-private sector collaboration can create a more robust and flexible nursing workforce capable of meeting Malaysia's healthcare demands. So it means what? They could collaborate on shared training programs, joint training initiative, standardized curriculum, resource sharing in terms of infrastructure and facilities, funding and scholarships, career pathways and mobility, flexible career options. That's interesting. Everyone is looking at flexible career options. You can do certain hours and so that's something they should not very rigid. Continuing education and professional development among the nurses. There's also workforce planning and deployment. So there's coordinated workforce planning, temporary staffing solutions. Of course, you need policy and advocacy, a unified policy development, advocacy for better working conditions. So just like the medical, so I think we have to have this mapping of this data, how many, where and there, and where's the private sector, private and the public, you have to combine the thing and work together. I think it's better. I think we have to look in public-private collaboration, I think, to solve issues.
Absolutely. And it's also interesting, Dr. Azizan, that when it comes to the health white paper, which was also tabled in Parliament back almost exactly a year ago in June 2023. Now, of course, we're in June 24. So what were any key areas from there that you see being useful when it comes to PPPs and the balance of resource utilization so that we can actually ensure that these aren't just plans on paper, but that they're quickly rolled out so that we're going to be able to meet those shortages of about 8,000 nurses within the next 2 years.
Wow. So, meaning, how, we are trying to get public-private collaboration here. So, it will be what? The MOH that is going to start the ball rolling or start the communication on how it's going to happen,
That's right.
And we need to know as usual, it's back again to the master plan, that data, how many nurses you need here, which area, which country, so that the public-private nursing schools or whatever, you can organize and say who trains how many and all that. I think everybody has got to come together and make use of the resources, because it's still so that you can cover out. Else there's certain private school only here, nursing school, and none on this area, and then we need as many also schools, nursing schools, to produce these numbers also.
Exactly.
And also we have to look also everything. Also we have to look at the salary also, because it's a competition with the other countries also. At least a better working environment or other incentives being put in, if we still can increase the salary. But I think we should look at increase of salaries. I think every country, if 2 or 3 years instead of over 10 years or 20 years before any salary increment is being thought of,
Exactly. It's been quite interesting to note that Singapore, in the meanwhile, which is a much closer neighbor, what they have done is offer a good chunk for retirement funds as well as incentives, specifically for nurses, because they recognize the need as being an aging nation. Right. Dr. Azizan, moving into another dimension, which has actually opened up as a high revenue and a high growth area. This is expansion of private primary care services. We're talking about private clinics around Malaysia. Tell us a little bit more about the issue of unregulated TPAs. These are third-party administrators, and why this is causing some increasing friction when it comes to affordability of costs, which is slowly going up.
Okay, let me start off. Issue of these unregulated TPAs in Malaysia's healthcare sector started more than 2 decades ago. The initial objective was better organizing and procuring healthcare services for companies and general population, aiming to reduce healthcare costs. So that was the initial thing. However, due to lack of regulatory controls, the number quickly increased, leading to several problems that have adversely affected healthcare delivery and affordability. So, these include what? They are charging substantial registration fees to clinics, engaging in fee splitting, taking significant deductions from the total bill. So, this can compromise the quality of care provided to patients. See, the TPAs are doing that because there's no regulation. So, how does this impact the healthcare providers? So, it will face financial strain on the healthcare providers, especially the private clinics, because these clinics often rely heavily on payments from the TPAs due to high percentage of patients are from this managed care.
Right, because they're coming streamed via them, and that is
versus
their
the
client base.
cash-paying patient.
Fair
Most of them,
enough.
because they're working with companies and they're being covered by TPAs. So majority of the patients are from the TPAs. And delayed payments from these TPAs will leave many clinics struggling financially, affecting their ability to sustain operations and provide quality care.
Fair enough. Now, with all of these issues that have been observed, MMA has really been at the forefront trying to engage with MOH for this issue since 2015. Sitting here almost a decade on, what are perhaps some regulatory actions that are recommended to bring this issue under control? Because as we can see, TPA third-party administrators are only growing in popularity as most people then are streamed via their employers and their plans into whichever private clinic that they access.
As you've mentioned, we've already approached MOH nearly over a decade already, but they are not, to me, taking active action on how to get them regulated, because they say it's not in the
scope.
Yeah, in their scope. But
Right.
then in the Private Healthcare Facilities Act, I think it was mentioned, they are placed under Part 15 of the Private Healthcare Facilities Services Act since 1998. However, till now there is no regulation. Hence, MOH unable to enforce and no action has been taken. So actually, nobody is actually looking into it, how to get, how for them to able to regulate. Everybody is not saying it's not under them.
Understood. So basically, it is something which is floating, but at the same time, it is
Yes.
impacting rising costs
Yes.
for those who are paying out of pocket.
Right.
Moving into some closing statements and ideas, Dr. Azizan, what are your suggestions for healthcare sector focus issues that must be raised in Parliament, hopefully during this ongoing session?
The key healthcare issues that we would like to raise during the ongoing Parliament session, one is revamping the Act 586. Okay, that is the Private Healthcare Facilities and Services Act 1998 and its regulations, enforced since 2006, currently impede the growth, cause inefficiencies, and increase the business burden. So our recommendation is to propose a major overhaul of the Act, transition to a comprehensive health services Act that regulates both private and public to ensure patient safety and quality care. That is one. Of course, as we were talking just now, to regulate the TPAs, the third-party administrators, that need to be controlled because the TPAs are controlling the employment health benefit in the country amounting to more than 1 billion RM.
That is no small amount. So it clearly requires a unified system to register clinics.
So there is that part 15 I was saying that they could look into that. All right. Then addressing the healthcare manpower shortages. This is affecting service delivery and operational efficiency. So we recommend that MOH should prioritize and publish a national manpower distribution plan. That means we advocate for a 30-year blueprint for healthcare manpower planning to anticipate and meet future healthcare demands effectively. So you need to really plan ahead for all these things, right? And then the reforming of health financing. The current tax base, right, is not sustainable in the long term. So we recommend for the government to initiate discussions in Parliament on alternative health financing models.
Fantastic. Dr. Azizan, this has been such a rich discussion. I wish we had time for a little bit more, but that's all we have time for today on Niaga Spotlight. Here's to meeting you again next Friday with more business analysis and highlights. Here's to a productive week ahead.
Khalif, kena tolong Angah dengan Along. Dah sampai masanya Khalif ambil tempat dalam keluarga ni.
Tapi bah, kau tak boleh ke fikir pasal family kejap? Selama mana abah pungut anak macam kau? Haram!
You haven't told them about the scholarship. To family you. If you keep everything from them, nanti benda akan jadi lagi teruk.
For whatever it's worth, you and me, none of this is fake.
总之，我就是不喜欢你缠他啦。如果不是关心你，我才懒得讲你呢。关心？你为什么突然间关心我？
Ini kedai emas yang Khalif kena langgar besok.
Buat apa tau?
Yang utama keluarga. Ingat tanggungjawab.
Exchange, tayangan perdana 12 Julai on demand dan di saluran-saluran berikut.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda bersama saya Sandahya dan ini agenda AWANI. Selepas keputusan Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia SPM diumumkan, pelbagai isu lain dan juga berita-berita lain terutamanya berkaitan dengan penempatan matrikulasi. Apa yang dinyatakan oleh Perdana Menteri? Keputusan kerajaan untuk menjamin pelajar yang mendapat 10A ke atas tanpa mengira kaum mendapat tempat di matrikulasi. Bukanlah tindakan apa yang dinyatakan oleh Perdana Menteri menjual maruah Melayu, sebaliknya ia adalah satu pendekatan adil yang sedang dilakukan. Dan Perdana Menteri menyeru semua pihak untuk melihat pelajar-pelajar yang mencatatkan keputusan cemerlang ini sebagai anak-anak Malaysia yang perlu dilayan dengan adil dan saksama. Dan juga sebelum ini, kalau kita lihat matrikulasi mempunyai kota ataupun majoriti pelajar Bumiputera 90%.